Her secret changed everything after Mountain Man found dying woman in snow. Far away from towns, noise, and people, the man lived where winter stayed longer than anywhere else. Snow covered the land most of the year, turning everything white and quiet. Trees stood tall and still, as if they were guarding secrets older than time. The wind spoke more than humans ever did, and the silence was so deep that even a small sound felt loud. He chose this life on purpose. Long ago, he had learned that people brought trouble, disappointment, and pain. Up here, there were no questions, no expectations, and no memories chasing him. Each day followed a simple rhythm: wake before sunrise, check the weather, tend to his fire, gather supplies, and make sure he had enough food to last through the cold. Survival was honest. The mountain did not lie. It either accepted you or it did not. His cabin sat hidden among thick pine trees built with his own hands. It was small but strong, made to stand against storms that could freeze breath in the air. Inside, everything had a place. Tools hung neatly on wooden walls. A small stove warmed the room. A narrow bed rested in the corner, and a single window looked out into the endless white. He did not mind being alone. In fact, he preferred it. On that particular morning, the sky was heavy and gray. Snow had fallen all night, piling high and smooth, erasing any tracks that once existed. The storm had finally passed, leaving behind a dangerous calm. He knew the signs well. After storms like this, the mountain could be unpredictable. Still, supplies did not gather themselves. Pulling on his thick coat and boots, he prepared for his usual route down the ridge to check traps and make sure nothing had been damaged by the weather. His movements were steady and practiced. Every step was careful. A mistake up here could cost more than comfort. As he moved through the snow, his breath rose in soft clouds. The cold bit at his face, but he barely noticed. Years in the mountains had hardened him. His eyes scanned the ground and trees, always alert, always aware. That was when something felt wrong. At first he couldn't explain it. The mountain had its own way of speaking, and he had learned to listen. The air felt different, too still. His instincts slowed his steps. He paused, listening. Then he saw it. Not an animal, not a fallen tree. Something darker against the white. Several steps ahead, near a bend in the trail, the snow looked disturbed, uneven. As if something had fallen, or been placed there. His heart began to beat faster, though he didn't know why. People did not come here. Tourists stayed far away. Locals knew better. Anyone with sense avoided these heights in winter. He had not seen another person in years. He moved closer, cautiously. As he brushed snow aside with his boot, his breath caught. A woman lay there, half buried, motionless. Her dark hair was frozen against her face. Her clothes were thin, completely wrong for the mountain cold. Snow had gathered on her eyelashes, making her look unreal, like part of the land itself. For a long moment, he stood frozen, unsure if she was alive. Then he saw it. A faint movement, a shallow breath. She was alive, but barely. His mind raced. Bringing someone into his world meant breaking the one rule he had lived by for years. Stay alone. Turn away. Let the mountain decide. But his body moved before his thoughts could stop it. He knelt beside her, brushing snow from her face with careful hands. Her skin was cold, too cold, and her breathing was weak. She made a small sound, almost like a whisper, but no words formed. "How did you get here?" he muttered, though he knew she could not answer. There was no time to think. If he left her there, she would not last much longer. The cold was unforgiving, and the storm had already taken too much from her. The mountain had not chosen her. It had nearly claimed her. With effort, he lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, as if fear and exhaustion had already taken much of her strength. Each step back toward the cabin felt heavier than the last. The snow slowed him. The wind picked up again, sharp and biting. His muscles burned, but he pushed on. Turning back was not an option now. When he finally reached the cabin, he kicked the door open and carried her inside. Warmth from the stove wrapped around them, and he gently laid her on the bed. He worked quickly but carefully. He removed her wet outer clothing, wrapped her in thick blankets, and added more wood to the fire. He checked her hands, her face, her breathing. Everything told him the same thing. She had been out in the cold far too long. As the minutes passed, her breathing grew a little steadier. He sat back in his chair, watching her closely. She did not look like someone who belonged to the mountains. Her face was pale but soft. But her hands were delicate, not shaped by hard outdoor work. This was not a lost hiker or a careless traveler. She had not come here by choice. As if sensing his thoughts, her eyes fluttered open for a brief second. Fear flashed across her face before she drifted back into sleep. Her lips moved again, forming words he could not hear. Something inside him tightened. Outside, the wind howled, shaking the cabin walls. Snow continued to fall softly, covering the path he had walked, erasing all signs of where she had come from. He realized then that whatever had brought her to the mountain was not finished, and by saving her, he had stepped back into a world he had tried to leave behind. The fire crackled, the storm whispered outside, and the mountain watched in silence as two strangers' lives crossed in a way neither of them could undo. This was only the beginning. The man did not sleep. He sat near the fire, adding wood when needed, listening to the wind press against the cabin walls. Every now and then, his eyes moved back to the woman lying on the bed. Her chest rose and fell, shallow but steady. That alone was a small relief. He had rescued injured animals before. People were different. People came with questions, trouble, and stories that never stayed quiet. He kept telling himself he had only done what was necessary. Leaving her in the snow would have meant certain death. Anyone with a heart would have done the same. Still, the feeling in his chest would not ease. Something about her presence disturbed the balance of his carefully controlled life. The howling wind softened into distant whispers. Pale light filtered through the small window, touching the woman's face. She stirred. At first it was only a slight movement of her fingers. Then her brow tightened, as if she were trapped in a bad dream. A soft sound escaped her throat. Not pain exactly, fear. He stood and moved closer. "Easy," he said quietly, though his voice sounded strange to his own ears. He had not spoken aloud in days. Her eyes opened suddenly. They were wide and filled with panic. She tried to sit up, but her body failed her. Weakness pulled her back down, and she let out a small gasp. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in the wooden walls, the fire, the unfamiliar man standing nearby. "Please," she whispered, her voice dry and broken. "Don't." The word cut deeper than he expected. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, raising his hand slightly to show he meant no harm. "You're safe. You were freezing out there." She stared at him, breathing fast, her hands gripping the blanket like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Where am I?" she asked. "My cabin," he replied. "You were found in the snow, barely breathing." Her eyes filled with something heavy, relief mixed with fear. She turned her face away, as if holding back tears. "How long?" she asked quietly. "Not long," he said. "Storm ended a few hours ago." She closed her eyes, letting out a slow breath, as if she had been holding it for days. Her shoulders relaxed just a little. "Thank you," she murmured. I thought I wasn't going to make it." He nodded but said nothing. Gratitude made things complicated. He brought her a cup of warm water and helped her sip it slowly. She winced with each swallow, but the color in her face slowly began to return. As the morning grew brighter, she grew more aware. Her eyes lingered on him now, not with fear, but with caution, like someone who had learned the hard way not to trust easily. "You live here alone?" she asked. "Yes." Her gaze shifted around the cabin again. "No phone? No road?" "No," he said. "Closest town is far. Too quiet." He noticed the way her fingers trembled under the blanket. Not from cold anymore. From worry. "Someone might be looking for you," he said carefully. Her head snapped toward him. "No," she said too quickly. Then she shook her head. I don't know. I don't think so." The lie was thin. Even he could hear it. Years of solitude had taught him that silence often revealed more than questions ever could. Later, as the day passed, he prepared simple food, warm soup made from stored supplies. He fed her slowly, watching closely for signs of pain or weakness. She ate like someone who hadn't tasted warmth in a long time. "Your clothes," he said gently. "They weren't right for the mountains." "I wasn't supposed to be here," she said. That much was clear. As evening approached, she fell asleep again, deeper this time. He stepped outside to check the area around the cabin. Fresh snow covered everything, smooth and untouched. Except for one thing. Near the tree line far from where he had found her, there were marks in the snow, faint, almost hidden. Tracks not animal. His stomach tightened. They were recent. Whoever they belonged to had passed through after the storm or during its end. That meant someone else had been on the mountain. Someone who knew how dangerous this place was. Someone who didn't belong. He erased the tracks as best he could, brushing snow over them, but the unease stayed with him as he returned inside. That night the woman woke again, restless. She sat up slowly, wincing, her face pale in the firelight. "You saw them, didn't you?" she asked softly. He stopped what he was doing. "Saw who?" he replied, though he already knew. She swallowed hard. "The tracks." He studied her carefully. "You said no one was looking for you. I didn't want to bring danger into your life," she said. "You saved me." "That should have been the end of it. But it isn't," he said. She shook her head. "I never meant for this to happen." Silence filled the cabin again, thick and heavy. "Why were you running?" he asked at last. She hesitated, then met his eyes, because staying was worse. He could see the fear return, sharp and real. Whatever she had escaped from was not small. "It was not simple. You're safe here," he said, though the words felt uncertain even as he spoke them. "For now," she replied quietly. That night the wind returned, but lighter this time. Snow fell gently as if trying to hide the mountain once more. Inside the cabin, two strangers lay awake, one haunted by a past he had buried, the other chased by one she could not escape. And somewhere beyond the trees, unseen and silent, the distance between danger and safety was slowly closing. The man woke early, as he always did. For a moment he forgot she was there. Then he heard a soft cough from the other side of the cabin, and reality settled back in. His life was no longer his alone. She was awake when he looked over. Sitting up slightly, wrapped in blankets, her eyes followed his movements. She looked stronger than before, though tiredness still rested on her face. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Better," she said honestly. "Still weak, but better than yesterday." He placed more wood into the stove and set water to warm. "You need rest. I know I owe you more than thanks." "You don't owe me anything," he said. She gave a small, sad smile. "That's kind of you, but not true." They sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled softly. Outside, snow slipped from tree branches, falling in gentle showers. Everything looked peaceful, but the tension inside the cabin had not faded. After breakfast, she asked if she could stand. He helped her slowly, steadying her as her feet touched the wooden floor. She swayed but did not fall. "I hate feeling helpless," she muttered. "Strength comes back," he said. "Rushing it only makes things worse." She looked at him, studying his face. "You talk like someone who's been hurt before." He did not answer. As the day moved on, she grew more talkative. Not about her past, but about small things. The weather, the cabin, how quiet the mountain felt. She said the silence was strange, but calming. "It feels like the world forgot this place," she said. "Sometimes that's a good thing," he replied. "Sometimes," she agreed, "and sometimes it means no one hears you when you need help." Her words lingered in the air. Later, while she rested, he stepped outside again. He walked farther this time, scanning the snow carefully. He found no new tracks, but the feeling of being watched stayed with him. The mountain no longer felt like a shelter, it felt like a waiting room. When he returned, she was sitting upright, staring at the floor. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You already are," he replied. She let out a weak breath. "Why did you choose to live out here, alone?" "'Cause it's quiet. Because nothing follows you into the mountains unless you invite it." "I didn't invite what followed me." He met her gaze. "Then tell me the truth." She did not speak right away. When she finally did, her voice was low. "I used to live a normal life," she said. "A job. Friends. A routine. I never thought I'd end up running for my life." He stayed silent, letting her continue. "I heard something I wasn't supposed to," she said. "Saw something that changed everything. I didn't go looking for it, I just happened to be there." "What kind of something?" he asked. "Enough to make people afraid," she replied. "Enough that they wanted to make sure I never talked." His jaw tightened. "So you ran?" "I left everything behind. I thought if I disappeared it would be over. But it wasn't," he said. She shook her head slowly. "No. They found me once already. I barely got away." The image of her lying in the snow returned to his mind. Alone. Almost gone. "They chased you into the mountains," he said. "I didn't plan to come here," she replied. "The storm hit. I got lost. I thought the cold would take me before they did." The room felt smaller suddenly. "Why didn't you go to the authorities?" he asked. "Oh." She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. Not everyone listens. Not everyone can be trusted. He understood that more than she knew. "Are they dangerous?" he asked. She nodded once. "Yes." The word hung between them. That night the lights appeared. It was subtle at first. A faint glow far down the ridge. Easy to miss if you weren't watching closely, but he was. He put out the cabin lamp and stood by the window. The glow moved slowly, carefully. Someone was searching. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from anger. This was his mountain, his silence, his life. "They're here," he said quietly. She stiffened. "I was afraid of that." He turned to her. "Can you travel?" "Not yet," she said. "Maybe soon, but not tonight." He nodded. "Then we stay quiet." The fire burned low. The wind carried distant sounds that might have been nothing, or something. Hours passed. At one point, she whispered, "You should send me away." He looked at her sharply. "Podcast. P. Why?" "Because I'm ruining your peace," she said. "You didn't ask for this. But I won't leave someone to face this alone." She studied him. "You don't even know me. You're scared. You were hunted. And you're human." Later, when sleep finally took her, he stayed awake, listening. The lights vanished before dawn, but he knew they would return. By morning, the truth was clear to both of them. Her secret was no longer just hers, and the mountain, once his escape, had become a place where choices would have to be made, choices that could never be undone. Part 3 ended not with answers, but with a shared understanding. Nothing would ever be simple again. The man woke before sunrise. His body was tired, but his mind refused to rest. The quiet he once trusted now felt fragile, as if it could break at any moment. He stepped outside to check the surroundings, moving slowly, listening carefully. Fresh snow had fallen again, but it could not hide everything. There were signs this time, small ones. A broken branch, a mark where snow had been pushed aside. Someone had been nearby during the night? Very nearby. He returned to the cabin, his face serious. "They're closer," he said. The woman was sitting up, wrapped in blankets. She looked stronger than before, but fear returned to her eyes the moment she heard his words. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted to pull you into this." "This stopped being just your problem when they stepped onto my land," he replied calmly. "They won't stop. They never do." He crouched in front of her. "And we don't—" That word, plan, gave her something to hold on to. He explained the paths through the mountain, the hidden routes only locals or longtime survivors knew. He spoke about old trails covered by snow, caves used in emergencies, and a narrow pass that could lead them towards safety when the weather cleared. "You know this place like a map in your head," she said. "It's kept me alive," he replied. Throughout the day, he prepared quietly. He packed supplies, checked his tools, and reinforced the cabin where needed. The woman watched, feeling both comforted and guilty. "You could still send me away," she said again. He shook his head. "Not like this. Not injured. Not chased." Clouds rolled across the sky, heavy and dark. Another storm was coming. The mountain seemed to be choosing a side, and it was unclear which. As evening fell, they heard it. A sound that did not belong. Both of them froze. The man motioned for silence. He slowly moved toward the window, peering through a narrow gap. Between the trees, shadows shifted. More than one. She clutched the blanket, her breath shallow. "They found us." "Not yet," he whispered. "They're searching." The footsteps circled the cabin, but did not approach directly. Whoever they were cautious. That worried him more than reckless movement. Hours passed in painful silence. Then a voice called out from the darkness. "Hello?" it said. Calm. Too calm. "We're just looking for someone. We don't want trouble." He did not answer. The voice continued. "We know you're out here. Let's talk." The woman's hands trembled. "They're lying," she whispered. "They always do." "I know," he replied. The footsteps moved away, then returned, closer this time. A beam of light swept across the cabin walls, sliding over the door, the window. The man made a decision. "We leave," he said softly. "Now?" she asked. "Yes." He helped her into warmer clothing and packed what little they could carry. Quietly, they slipped out the back of the cabin, disappearing into the trees. The cold air burned their lungs as they moved. Snow crunched softly underfoot, but the wind covered most of the sound. The mountain, dark and vast, swallowed them whole. They moved toward the narrow pass he had mentioned earlier. The climb was slow. The woman stumbled more than once, but he never let her fall. Behind them, voices echoed, shouts, confusion. "Hurry," he urged. The storm arrived faster than expected. Snow began to fall heavily, blinding and loud. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. For the first time, fear touched him deeply. The mountain was no longer just a shield. It was a threat. They reached a rocky ledge where the path split. One route led down into a ravine. The other climbed higher, steeper, more dangerous. "We go up," he decided. "Are you sure?" she asked, panic rising. "Yes," he said. "They won't follow there." Ice cut into their gloves. The wind screamed. Her strength faded with every step. "I can't," she gasped. He turned, gripping her shoulders. "You can. You have to." She nodded and kept going. At the top, they found shelter in a shallow cave, barely visible under snow-covered rock. They crawled inside, pressing against the cold stone as the storm roared outside. Minutes passed, then hours. Below them, faint lights moved, then vanished. The mountain erased their trail. Inside the cave, they sat in silence, shaking from cold and fear. "You didn't have to do this," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "I did." She looked at him, really looked at him. "You've been alone for so long. Why protect me?" He stared at the cave wall. "Because once, a long time ago, no one protected someone I cared about." Her eyes softened. Exhaustion pulled at them both. Before sleep took her, she whispered, "If we survive this, I'll tell you everything." Outside, the mountain stood silent again, as if nothing had happened. But both of them knew the truth. The past had finally caught up, and the final choice was still ahead. Morning light slowly crept into the cave, soft and pale, touching the cold stone walls. The storm had passed. The wind no longer screamed. Instead, the mountain felt calm again, like it was watching quietly, waiting. The man woke first. His body ached, and his hands were stiff from the cold, but he moved carefully so he wouldn't wake her. For a moment, he simply listened. No voices, no footsteps. Only the distant sound of snow sliding from rocks far below. They were still alive. He stepped outside the cave cautiously. The world looked completely different now. Fresh snow covered everything, smooth and untouched. Whatever trail they had left was gone. The mountain had erased it. When he returned inside, she was awake, sitting up slowly, her face pale but determined. "We made it through the night," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "But we can't stay here long." She nodded. "I know." They shared a small meal, saving what little they had left. As they ate, silence filled the space between them. Not an uncomfortable silence this time, but one filled with meaning. After a while, she spoke. "I promised I'd tell you everything." She took a deep breath. "It started with my job," she said. "I handled records, files people didn't pay much attention to. One day, I noticed something that didn't make sense. Numbers that didn't match, names that appeared too often." She paused, steadying herself. "I asked questions," she continued. "I shouldn't have. The wrong people noticed." "They tried to scare you," he said. "Yes," she replied, "at first. Then they tried to silence me." She explained how she had run from place to place, never staying long, always looking over her shoulder, how she trusted the wrong person once and almost paid for it, how the mountains were never part of her plan, just a desperate choice when all other paths closed. "I didn't want to disappear forever," she said softly. "I just wanted the truth to matter." He listened carefully, feeling the weight of her words. "You still want to tell someone," he said. "Yes," she replied, "but not just anyone. Someone who can't be bought. Someone who will listen." He thought for a long moment. "There's a ranger station 2 days from here," he said. "Remote, but official. They won't ignore you." "You'd take me there?" "I'll guide you," he said. "After that, the choice is yours." The descent was slow but safer than the climb. With daylight and calmer weather, the mountain felt less threatening, no less powerful. As they moved, he noticed how she walked stronger now. Still tired, but no longer broken. By late afternoon, they reached a point where the trees thinned and the land opened up. From there, they could see far into the distance. No movement. No lights. "They're gone," she said quietly. "Or they gave up," he replied. "Either way, we keep moving." They reached the ranger station the following day, exhausted but determined. Smoke rose from the chimney, a good sign. When they stepped inside, warmth surrounded them. For the first time since he had found her in the snow, she looked truly safe. She spoke to the ranger calmly, clearly, telling her story without fear. Evidence she had hidden was handed over. Details were recorded, plans were made. When she finished, her shoulders relaxed, as if a heavy weight had finally been lifted. Outside, she turned to the man. "This is where our paths split," she said. "Yes," he replied. She hesitated. I don't know how to thank you. He shook his head. You don't have to. You gave me a chance, and you reminded me why people still matter, he said. They stood there for a moment longer, 2 lives changed by a single choice in the snow. Then she walked toward a new future. He turned back toward the mountains. The climb home felt different now. The silence was still there, the snow still endless, but something inside him had shifted. The mountain was no longer just a place to hide. It was a place where a life had been saved. When he reached his cabin, the door creaked open like an old friend welcoming him back. Everything looked the same, yet nothing was. He placed more wood in the fire and sat down, staring into the flames. He was still alone, but not empty. Somewhere beyond the peaks, the truth was moving forward. Somewhere a woman who should have died in the snow was starting again. And the mountain, quiet and watchful, kept their secret. Not as a burden,